All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Um, First of all, tonight's class is in honor and the merit of all the Jewish people in the land of Israel and all the soldiers and all the hostages should be returned and complete safety for the Jewish people. This class is sponsored in honor of Asher Jenkins' birthday. Is Chav Beis Nisan, the last day of Passover. Wish him a happy birthday, Shnas Haslacha, a year of success, and we should only have good things for Asher and his entire family. And if you would like to sponsor a class, sponsorships are available. We appreciate it. It helps us keep these things going. So happy birthday in advance to Asher. And we are not going to be having a class next week on Pesach. And we'll continue, God willing, the week after. So we'll have 1 week break and then we'll be back. Okay. So because we're coming up to Pesach just a few days, starting Monday evening. Just a reminder for everyone to make sure to sell your chametz. You can go to chabad.org/chametz. You could also do it on chabad.org. You could do it in person. It's free. All it costs is your few seconds to write down your address, so that way your chametz is sold. During Passover, it's tremendous mitzvah. If you need a place for a seder, we can help you with that as well. And if you need mashmur matzah, please contact us as well. We're happy to help you. Okay, now that we got all the housekeeping out of the way, let's get into it. So tonight we're going to discuss the mitzvah of the 4 cups of wine. So we'll start off with, what is the Seder about? So we know there's a mitzvah in the Torah. The Torah tells us it's a mitzvah to tell the story of Pesach. It says in the Torah, you should remember the day that you left Egypt. And our Maimonides says, even the greatest scholars must retell the Exodus, and those who expound on it at length are praiseworthy, as was recounted in the Haggadah, right? We discussed in the Haggadah this idea. And it's specifically a mitzvah to tell the children, right? Like it says we mentioned all these in the Haggadah. We mentioned the 4 sons, different answers that we give them, even if the child doesn't ask, right? We have the child doesn't know how to ask. We initiate the conversation and we talk to him as well and tell him the story of Egypt. And we also do things differently. We do things specifically in a stranger way, different than the whole year. Like we eat, instead of washing for bread when we start the Seder or washing for matzah, we wash and we eat a little bit of a vegetable, all these different things to pique their interests and the children's interests. Now, one of the obligations that Maimonides mentions, brought in Shulchan Aruch as well in the Code of Jewish Law, is a person has to drink 4 cups of wine. Okay, each cup should be a revius, which translates to approximately 2.9 ounces or 86 milliliters. A good way to remember is the word kos. The word cup is, if you know gematria, which is the numerical value of the letters, is 20, is chaf, vav is 6, and samach is 60, is 86. 86 milliliters is 2.9 ounces. Okay, little hack. All right, and we have to drink at least 4 of them, and we have to follow the Seder, no pun intended, of the order of the Haggadah, and we have to follow, meaning you can't just drink 1, 2, 3, 4, and then move on. You have to drink 1 and make kiddush. You have to drink the second one after you read the Haggadah. Third one is for after the benching, and the fourth one after the Hallel. Okay, so when it comes to the Maimonides, when he discusses the idea of the 4 cups of wine, he says as follows. First, like we said, we do all the 4 cups. Like we said, we do the first cup on Kiddush, second cup after the reading of the Haggadah, third cup after benching, after grace after the meals, and the 4th cup is after the Hallel. And then Maimonides says as follows. One may pour a 5th cup and recite the Great Hallel. The Great Hallel is a special prayer that we say as part of the Hallel service in the Haggadah, which talks about all the wonderful miracles that God does, called the Great Hallel because it discusses the fact that God sustains every single creature, and that is considered a great thing only God could do. So it's called the Great Hallel, the Great Praise. And you could recite but it is not, Maimonides says, you could pour the fifth cup, and it is not an obligation like the previous 4 cups. Okay, so we have this idea of a fifth cup. This is something new that we don't see, right? We all know about 4 cups. What is this fifth cup? Now, before we can get to the fifth cup, we have to get into, first of all, we see that Maimonides says pour it. He doesn't say drink it, and he says it's not an obligation. And in fact, it's a big problem, because if you were to drink the cup, we have a different issue, is that the Torah, our sages tell us that after the 4 cups, you're not supposed to drink any other wine. You're not supposed to eat any other matzah after you finish the afikomen, or eat any other food, and you're not supposed to drink any other wine. If you need water, but only in a situation where there's literally nothing else to drink and you're so thirsty, middle of the night, you could drink wine. But in general, a person should not drink wine after the 4 cups. So if you're of the opinion that if you say that it's not really an obligation, then if you hold to the opinion, according to the opinion that it is not an obligation, you drink an extra cup for no reason. So it's a problem. So therefore, we don't drink it. We pour it. Maimonides suggests pouring it, but he does not say anywhere to drink it. Okay. Now, when it comes to this fifth cup, where is the source of this fifth cup? Okay, if you look in the Talmud, in Pesachim 118a, it says, Hallel is recited over the 4th cup. And the Rif, Rabbi Yitzchak Elfasi, he says that his version of the Talmud says that Rabbi Tarfon said that you should recite the Great Hallel over the 5th cup. So this must, over a 5th cup. So this must be the source for Maimonides, is this idea is from the Talmud. Rabbi Tarfon, by the way, who is mentioned in the Haggadah, he's one of the great sages in Bnei Brak, who we recount his Seder, if you pay attention. So he says you should drink a 5th cup. So if we're going to understand why you would drink a 5th cup, first we have to understand why we have to drink 4 cups. Okay, so the reason for the 4 cups is as follows. There are 4 Lishonot Geula, or we'll say languages of redemption in the Torah. The Torah tells us in Exodus verses 6 through 8 as follows. I will take you out from the burdens of the Egyptians. I will save you from their labor. I will redeem you with an outstretched arm. And I will take for you me as a people. So you have 4 different ways that God describes us. Okay? I will take you. I will save you. I will redeem you. And I will take you. Sorry. Take you out. We'll take you out. Then there is, I will save you from their labor. I will redeem you. And then there is, I will take you for as a people. Okay? In the Hebrew, v'atzesi, v'yitzalti, v'ga'alti, v'lakachti. Okay? So that is the 4 languages of redemption. And the commentaries explain this idea that each one is a different level of redemption. So we have first, v'hotzesi. V'hotzesi means, and I will take you out. But take you out means I will take you out from the suffering. But it doesn't mean that but you're still slaves. So then God says, I will take you out. And then he says, I will save you. I will save you means you will no longer be enslaved. However, at that point, the Jewish people are still in Egypt. So then God says, I will redeem you. Okay, and then God says, "V'lokachti li'olam," and I will take you as my nation. And so that is the last thing, is bringing by Sinai, is God says, I've saved you from suffering, I've redeemed you from slavery, I've taken you out of Egypt, and now I have made you into my nation. Those are the 4 things. So where would we have? We have 4 things, and therefore the rabbi said we should make 4 cups of wine. In relation to these 4, the 4 languages, the 4 expressions, I should say, better word, expressions of redemption. Okay, so we thank God with each cup of wine. Now, there is a fifth thing. Okay, and if you go further in the verses, it says the Hevesi, and I will bring you into the land of Israel. So the question is, why not 5 cups? So the commentators explain the reason we don't drink may have a 5th cup is because we are now in exile. We are not living in the land of Israel. The land of Israel is not controlled by the Jewish people in a halachic sense. I think we all understand that, especially what's going on nowadays. We could see that the Jewish people are not living it freely, even in the land of Israel. So therefore, until Mashiach comes, we cannot drink a fifth cup because God has not. We have not fulfilled that full redemption of Mashiach. So now it makes sense. So Maimonides says, so Rabbi Tarfon says that we should bring this fifth cup. Maimonides says you can't drink it because why? Since we are not in Israel, Maimonides says he does not mention drinking of the fifth cup or making a blessing on the fifth cup. He just says some people pour it, and that is that. Okay, so now let's get to the practice of our practice of Jewish people today. The Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi, the first Rebbe of Chabad, the Alter Rebbe, he brings in his Shulchan Aruch, based on the Chok Yaakov, he brings the Chok Yaakov was a Rabbi Yaakov Reischer. He was a 17th century rabbi in Austria, I believe. So he brings from him as follows. In chapter 480 of the Shulchan Aruch, as follows. In these lands, the practice is to pour one additional cup on behalf of all the participants together. And it is called the cup of Elijah. Okay? So, but this cup of Elijah is different than the fifth cup because we say that number one, first of all, we call it the cup of Elijah, not the fifth cup, like Maimonides called it. And we pour one of them for everyone. Not everybody gets a cup, right? A fifth cup would imply that after the four cups, everyone would then pour a fifth cup into their cup. We don't do that. Instead, we pour one cup and for everyone. Okay. Now, the question is, so where would we get, if we're saying that the fifth cup is related to coming into the land of Israel, where would this cup idea of Elijah comes? So if we look in the Shulchan Aruch, he explains as follows. The custom is to recite Shafo Chamascha when we open the door, and that we say that if Elijah, for which we open the door as a reminder after Pesach, that on Pesach night is a night of divine protection, so that if Elijah will come, he will find an open door and we will hurry out to greet him. This is what we believe. So then he says, again, in these lands, the practice is to pour an additional cup on behalf of everyone, called the cup of Elijah, right? So we do it in association with opening the door, so that way when we are waiting Mashiach, and we're saying that Elijah, it's an auspicious time for Mashiach to come, so we open the door, so if Mashiach comes, Elijah comes to tell us that Mashiach has arrived, the door is open and he could come right in. So that is where this custom comes from. So we see that this is not just the idea of Elijah's cup is not just something that is we're saying that there's the fifth cup idea that's related to when the Jewish people are in the land of Israel after the coming of Mashiach, we'll have a fifth cup in relation to that promise that God gave us. But this is a cup of faith that we want, and we're waiting, and we're confident that God will save us and redeem us and bring Mashiach. And in fact, the fact that in the Shulchan Aruch, when he brings this idea of the fifth cup, of this cup of Elijah, I should say, he says that we pour one for all the people sitting there, which implies that Elijah will be one of the people sitting at our table, that is how much faith that we have faith that Elijah will come and sit down with us and tell us that Mashiach has arrived. In fact, there's a custom, some people have a custom that they leave the cup of wine sitting there next to their bed the whole night. There's different customs involved with this cup, so we see that it's really about faith of the Jewish people. I'll just share a short story, and then we'll wish everybody a kosher and happy Pesach. There was once a Jew, a peasant, pauper Jew, who lived in Eastern Europe. He was a wood chopper, some sort of, collect small bundles of wood. He didn't really have such good tools. All he had was a small sled, so he couldn't really, chop logs. He would chop sticks and would help people for kindling. And he would chop them down, and he would put on his little sled, and he would bring it in the winter time, and that's how he made a living. And he made a meager living. And one winter, it was just really bad. Not like in Duluth this year, but a really, really bad winter. And just his little sled couldn't get through the snow. Just drifts and drifts of snow, and he couldn't get through. So what do? Nothing. He couldn't do anything. Meanwhile, his competitors, would they had their big horses, whatever it was, and they were able to chop wood and bring it, and he has nothing he could do. The only thing he could do is say Tehillim, say Psalms, and his wife Chaim, the protagonist of our story, Chaim, his wife Brina is coming every day. What are you doing? You're losing all your money. What are you gonna do? And he says, I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna have faith in God. And then she says, what about Pesach? Pesach is coming. He said, I don't know, maybe we could sell something. She starts laughing. Sell something. This winter was so bad. We sold my candlesticks. We sold our pillows. We sold our blankets. All we have left is our poverty. And good luck, maybe put that for sale. Okay. So he's thinking, and she says, why don't you go to the rabbi? They have not the rabbi, I'm sorry, the gabbai of the shul, the person who's in charge of the charity of the synagogue. Go to him. They have a fund every year. We contribute every year. And to this fund, special for Pesach, and they help people. So why don't you go and ask for a donation? Every year you give to the fund. This year, okay, you'll be a taker. He thinks about it. He says, no, I won't take charity. So he says, she says, okay, you won't take charity? And she remembers, there's one thing left in the house. He says, what's left? He says, the cup of Elijah. The cup of Elijah? Are you crazy? This silver cup, it's worth a few $100s. Maybe we could, rubles, whatever it's called back then. We could sell it, and we'll have enough food for matzah, wine, meat, fish, everything we need for Pesach. And he says, absolutely not. Imagine Elijah shows up, and he comes, and he knocks on the door, and he opens the door, and he sits down, and his cup is gone. It'll be embarrassing. She says, what do you care? Elijah, he's a nice guy. I'm sure he'll understand. He says, no, absolutely not. Okay. You won't take charity. You won't sell a cup of Elijah. He says, what about the goat? The goat? She starts yelling at him. Are you crazy selling the goat? The goat is the only thing that we have. We get a little bit of milk from our goat. The goat's not really making so much milk these days because he doesn't have anything to eat, but, something. Okay. He doesn't know what to do. So the day before Pesach, he comes to the rabbi to sell his chametz, and the rabbi lets him into his office, and he says, okay, so what are you selling? He says, do you have any food, any chametz in your house? No, I have no chametz. There's no food in the house. Okay, what do you have? I have some pots and pans that we use for the chametz. Okay, so he writes it down, writes his name, signs his name. Okay. He says, Rabbi, I have a question for you. Says, yeah, what's the question? He says, can you use milk for the 4 cups? Rabbi strokes his beard and says, milk for the 4 cups? He's thinking, this is very important. When you're a rabbi, you can't just answer the question. You have to answer the person. He says, if he has milk, that means he doesn't have meat, because you can't eat milk and meat together. Chaim is a pious Jew, so obviously he has no meat. If he has no meat, he might not have matzah either. He might have nothing. The rabbi thinks, and he says, you know what? This is a very, very difficult question. Very, very hard question. I don't know the answer to this question right now. I don't have time to deal with this right now. It's Erev Pesach. Why don't you, here's a few $100s. Here's a loan, a few 100 rubles. Go buy wine. Buy whatever you need for Pesach. And after Pesach, you'll pay me back. I trust you. And like this, the rabbi is able to get Chaim to accept this loan. Okay, Chaim is thrilled. He goes the day before Passover, runs, buys matzah, wine, fish, meat, everything you need for Pesach. And he runs home and he tells his wife, Good Yontiv. She says, Yontiv, tomorrow's Pesach. What are you saying, Good Yontiv? He says, no, look, I got all this food. They're thrilled. So they make Pesach, they make the Seder, they sit down at the Seder, and when they open the door for Elijah, like we just discussed, there's a Jew standing there. And the woman who opened the door, the Brina of our story, she says, do you want to come in? You need a place for the Seder? He says, yeah, I'll come in. Comes, he sits down, and he says, would you like it? Do you need wine, matzah for the Seder? And he says, no, I'm heading somewhere else. I just I thought I would stay for a few minutes. I'm a little stranded or whatever it is. So, okay. And he sits there and he's looking at and Chaim, who had been in synagogue that evening, recognizes him. Maybe, I think he was one of the paupers sitting in the back, who was, travelers, is here in town. So he recognized him, and he's sitting at the Seder as they're singing, and he's looking at this cup of Elijah that, they had took this cup, and it was the only thing they had, and she was so bored, she had shined it, and it was gleaming, beautiful silver goblet, and she says, um, the guest says, "Wow, what a beautiful goblet, shining." And he says, "May your mazel shine like this cup. May your luck shine like this cup." And he got up and he left. That was it. Next day he comes to Shul and he says, maybe this Jew is around. He needs a place for the second Seder. So he runs and nobody saw him. Nobody ever saw this person. So he goes to the rabbi. He says, did you see this pauper? He says, no, there was no pauper. He says, there was this guy. He came to my Seder. He says, yeah. He came to my Seder too. This was Elijah the prophet. And he comes to every Seder. But most people don't see him. You, because of your Psalms, and your dedication to this idea of Elijah and the coming of Mashiach, you were merited to see him. Sure enough, a few weeks later, while he was schlepping his little sled with his little wood, it got stuck in the mud, and he pulled out the sled, and he found a treasure of gold coins. And from then on, they were able to live happily ever after, and give plenty of charity, and be no longer pauper Chaim, but the Gvir, as they say, the rich man Chaim. So we see just a cute anecdote, cute story, this idea of how the faith of the Jewish people, this is what kept us going, and this is what will bring us to the coming Mashiach. So thank you everyone for joining. Wish you a kosher and happy Pesach, and God willing, we will see you in Jerusalem with the coming Mashiach for the Seder. All the best, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.